everyone, it's Miss Ellie from the Crown Point Community Library. Welcome to Story Time. I am so excited to be here today because it is finally spring. Are you excited? I am. So after a long winter that we always seem to have in this area, we are finally getting some warmer weather and you're starting to hear the birds chirping outside. So I'm really excited. Before we get started with all of our things here today, we're going to sing our hello song. Do you remember it? We've been doing it for quite a while now, so I hope so. It goes, hello, 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 and how are you? I'm fine, and I hope that you are too. Hello, 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 and how are you? I'm fine, and I hope that you are too. Great. So, talking about spring, there are a lot of things that remind us of spring or make us think of the spring. And so one of those things for me is, what is that? Flowers. That's right. I love flowers. I'm wearing them today on my shirt, if you can't tell. Flowers are pretty and they smell good and they make me think of warmer weather and happy times, because a lot of times you get flowers for your birthday or for Mother's Day or something like that. So I really love flowers, and in the spring I love to see all the flowers coming back. What else do we think of in the spring? What kind of animal is this? It's a chick. It's a baby chicken, and this is the time of year when there are lots of baby animals, and especially if you're a farmer or you know somebody who has a farm, and you've been able to go and see that, you would see a lot of different animals being born in the springtime. And then in towns, like most of us live in, you might see these guys in your backyard. So that's a bunny rabbit. I love bunnies. I have a few living in my backyard right now. And in the spring, you can also see little bunnies hopping around that were born over the winter. So that's really exciting. And today, our story and our craft are about bunnies as well, because I love them so much. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Before we get started with our story, though, I thought of something that might help us to be able to relax and listen to our story and enjoy it and not feel like we have a bunch of wiggles inside of us. Are you ready? It's a new rhyme for us to learn together. So it says, I wiggle my fingers. I wiggle my toes. See, he's pointing to his toes. Can you wiggle your toes? It's kind of hard in shoes. I wiggle my shoulders. You can do that. Wiggle your shoulders. I wiggle my nose. I have to actually wiggle it with my finger because I can't do it by itself very well. Good job. Then it says, now all the wiggles are out of me. I'm as still as I can be. Can you freeze? Good job. Let's do it one more time and see if we can really freeze at the end, okay? So we say, I wiggle my fingers. Both hands, do both hands. I wiggle my toes. Wiggle those toes. I wiggle my shoulders. I wiggle my nose. Now, all the wiggles are out of me. I'm as still as I can be. Did you do it? Did you freeze? Good job. All right, I think we're ready. to sit still and to listen to our story. It is called Bunny's Book Club. Bunny's Book Club by Annie Silvestro. Illustrated by Tatiana Maiwis. Published by Doubleday Books for Young Readers. Bunny loved books. There he is. He'd loved them ever since he first heard the lady with the red glasses reading aloud outside the library. As he listened, Bunny imagined himself climbing mountains, captaining a ship, ruling a kingdom. But when summer ended, story time moved back inside. Bunny wasn't sure if animals were allowed in the library. But Bunny was sure he couldn't live without books. Night after night, he could hardly sleep for wishing. He had to do something. So with a flashlight in his paws and hope in his heart, Bunny jumped out of bed and tiptoed through the dark. But when he reached the library door, it was locked. So were the windows. Bunny tried digging, climbing, and yanking. Nothing worked. Until finally he noticed... What do you think he noticed? The book return! The shiny handle was far above his head, but it was no match for a high-hopping bunny hungry for books. Bunny leapt. He clung to the bar, flung himself over, and wriggled his cottontail through the slot. He landed inside with a thud. Bunny's eyes sparkled at the sight of the shelves bursting with books. It was better than a field full of fresh, crunchy carrots. But Bunny didn't know where to start. He took a deep breath. It smelled as if he were wrapped inside the pages of his favorite book. He followed his nose to the adventure section. There, he found stories about swashbucklers, sharks, and superheroes. Bunny greedily grabbed them all. His whiskers twitching with excitement, he slipped his treasures through the book slot, one by one. Then, performing his best balancing act, Bunny wobbled home. He couldn't wait to dig in. And so Bunny returned to the library each night. He searched and sneaked, then scurried back to read. Soon his home was more books than burrow. What's a burrow? That's what we call a place where rabbits live. Then one evening, a loud knock startled Bunny. He closed his book and opened the door. "Where have you been?" asked Porcupine. "Reading," said Bunny. "Why?" said Porcupine. Bunny's eyes popped wide open. "Why?" he sputtered. "Have you ever been to the library?" It was time for Bunny to let Porcupine in on his secret. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" said Porcupine. "Calm your quills," said Bunny. "I'm too prickly. I'll never fit." Bunny pushed and shoved until pop went Porcupine. Bunny slipped in and flipped on his flashlight. "Whoa," said Porcupine. "I know," said Bunny. "Do you think there's a story about balloons? I've always wondered about balloons." "Most definitely," said Bunny. Sure enough, Porcupine found books on balloons, and on deserts and dunes, on caterpillars and cocoons. When Bunny handed him one about hedgehogs, He hugged it. The two friends took turns cramming books out the slot. Their towers teetered so high they could barely carry them. Back at Bunny's, they cozied up with cups of tea and carrot muffins. Together, they read until sunrise. They stayed up all night to read. One night, Bear noticed the light on at Bunny's. He opened the door and tripped over a stack of books. Look. "What's going on?" said Bear. "Here," said Bunny, handing him a book. Bear made room and settled in to read. Look how big he is on the sofa. Soon, more curious animals began visiting. "Do you have any books about outer space?" said Bird. "Or about volcanoes?" asked Mole. "I'd like a ghost story," said Mouse. "I think it's time for a field trip," said Bunny. One by one, the animals stuffed themselves inside the library. Bear caused a bit of a delay. Look, he's half in and half out. What does that word mean? Delay. That means it's taking longer than it should. They scattered about, sniffing the stacks, pawing over pages. Squirrel gathered stories about the circus. Raccoon nabbed one about outlaws and bandits. Frog found a fairy tale. No one heard the key in the front door. No one heard the clack, clack, clacking of footsteps. No one heard the light flick on. Uh-oh. What do you think is going to happen? "What do we have here?" said the librarian. The animals looked up in shock. Bunny gasped. Porcupine gaped. Bear groaned. "Oh." "Follow me," she said. The animals marched slowly behind her. "We're done for," whispered Porcupine. "All libraries have rules," said the librarian sternly. Bunny's whiskers trembled. Porcupine's back bristled. Bear eyed the door. Bunny stepped forward to take the blame. The librarian leaned down. "The first rule is every book lover must have one of these," she said. She handed Bunny and his friends shiny new library cards. "Now you may borrow books," she said, smiling, "as long as you return them, of course." Bunny couldn't believe his ears. They could keep coming to the library. He beamed at his fellow readers, then bounced to the shelves. He picked the perfect book, and he proudly checked out the very first official selection for Bunny's Book Club. Wow, that looks like a really fun book club. Look at all that. They have cupcakes and carrots and tea, and they're all reading together. That looks so fun. Wouldn't you love to have a book club like that? I think that would be great. I might be a little bit scared of the bear in real life, but not if he was a cartoon bear like that. The end. Did you enjoy reading Bunny's Book Club? I did. So just like the bunny in our story, I decided that this week we could do a bunny craft. And this is a very simple one. You could even do it at home on your own if you weren't able to come to the library to get the bag. What I did was I took a piece of fun colored paper. It's springtime, so it's a springy color. And I traced my hand, see, that's my hand, onto the paper. And then I folded down this middle finger because it looks like it's missing, but it's not. So I folded it and I glued it to the back, and then that's what gave me my bunny ears right here. And then I folded in my pinky and my thumb, and that gave him little bunny arms to hold his little bunny book. So to make the book, all you have to do is fold the paper a bunch of times over on itself, and then I stapled it in the middle to hold it together. Whoops. And then I cut off the edges so that when you open this, it's actually a bunch of pages, just like a book would be. So you could write your own little story in there. You could make it a card for somebody. You could write a little note in there. You could even make it a book for your bunny to read, and you could read it to your bunny. And then the last thing I did is I gave him a little cottontail, just like in our story when he wriggled his cottontail through the book return. So he's just like our bunny in the story. He's not the same color. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be any special color. I just picked fun spring colors. So if you don't come to the library and get the bag, you can still do this from home. You just need a cotton ball and a piece of paper, and it could be any color paper, totally up to you. So for more virtual programming and story times, make sure you visit this YouTube channel or crownpointlibrary.org. I am so happy to always be spending time with you during story time. I hope that you enjoyed today as well. I'll see you next time.